Achieve optimal scintillation at the Seattle International Film Festival, May 7th through 17th. With 203 films from over 70 countries, the festival will immerse you in a cinematic experience unlike anywhere else. Discover independent and international films, in person, in the heart of Seattle. There's something for everyone, so join the community and start experimenting. Additional information and tickets on sale now at sif.net/festival. This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Should our government agencies be on social media? We'll discuss the Port of Port Townsend's decision to quit Facebook and Instagram. Plus, we've got the latest arts and culture news from our region. But first, friend of the pod, Margot Van Singel, reports in the Seattle Times that our city's Office of Economic Development recently launched something called the Commercial Film Production Initiative, which aims to bring 200 new jobs in commercial production and $5 to $10 million in revenue for local businesses. Here to discuss, we've got Champ Ensminger, a filmmaker. Welcome to the show, Champ.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we have Chase Hutchinson, critic and journalist. Hi, Chase.
Glad to be here as always.
So, Chase, I know you've been following this closely. Why are we funding commercial development?
So the short answer is you should go read the full story from Margot because it's the greatest story. The longer answer is that if you are a local crew member, narrative productions, while something that you're most possibly passionate about and why you're in this industry, are not always as consistent. And so it can be a valuable thing to have commercial work as well. And it can be for local companies. It can be for international companies. It can be for whoever's coming in and looking for a commercial project. And it can be a real game changer for folks. It can be a full, consistent stream of work. There's obviously some insecurity in that, something I empathize with deeply as a freelancer. But that's what this initiative is about bringing more of those projects. And I've heard from speaking with folks that this is something that is already beginning to grow, and that Washington is one of those places that's really trying to be competitive with other states.
Interesting. So, Champ, I know you've worked on commercials doing post-production. What is the scene like here?
Yeah, the scene is ebb and flow as far as sort of how busy the town is, and therefore how many production companies, small agencies, and their freelancers get a lot of work. And I've seen it over the course of, almost 20 years at this point. Back in the day when I was undergrad at UW, I kind of was trying to figure out what my career was going to look like in film. And the lay of the land in Seattle was you had some shops like Wong Duty and Digital Kitchen. Digital Kitchen kind of made their name by doing a lot of opening title sequences for different IPs like HBO series and some features as well. And DK was like a hotshot, sort of agency in town that some filmmakers were like, you know what, we can make some pretty good money doing some stuff for, bigger companies, and maybe we can do some fun stuff on the side. And I think that's been a philosophy that has been throughout the industry, and Seattle kind of shrunk down into some other small boutique shops. I lived around for a while. I lived in New York for a bit and abroad for a bit, and then I came back in Seattle and I started working full-time staff at World Famous, which was some of the Digital Kitchen alumni making their own shop, and basically having the same philosophy of like a bunch of commercial work for name whatever tech companies are in town. You've got T-Mobile, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. And then every now and then we do a really awesome short film or a music video as like something to round out our reel and kind of prove that we can do something really high concept and really interesting. Because the people who staff these places are really talented creatives and filmmakers, graphic designers, animators. And the post scene is what I really kind of like dug my heels into. And since COVID, the post scene has been challenging because budgets have shrunk and costs have gone high to exist and that sort of thing. So it's a mixed bag.
So what do you think this new initiative will possibly do for that commercial scene here?
I think if anything, it's And this is coming from somebody who engages a lot with Chris Swenson from the Office of Economic Development as a film commissioner on the Seattle Film Commission, representing post-production. And Chris is a gem of a human being, and his position has had different iterations over the past 20 years. And the way that he's wearing his hat now is really great, because I think it's just being realistic about what really keeps the Seattle scene going, and kind of what keeps the lights on is the commercial work. It's a lot of stuff that maybe isn't fancy or that we're particularly proud of, but it is what sustains a lot of careers, myself included. And I think just the conversation with the city of Seattle, with city council, and just being realistic, like we really want to have the cool episodic and feature work that other towns get, and also just kind of an awareness that it's slow everywhere. And if we really commit to what we're especially good at is being effective at these sort of flash in the pan commercial projects, then we're in it for the long haul.
So as an outsider to filmmaking, I'll admit that when I heard commercial development, I was thinking about literal commercials. But, you mentioned, of course, like the HBO title sequences. Can you just give me a sense of like, what is the range of commercial work that is currently out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of like internal lingo that like B2B and this sort of thing. There's like industrial videos that are very technically specific, and someone makes those, and there's all kinds of different industries that really need that have a need for that. But then you've got like fancy things, like I've worked on a couple Super Bowl spots for said tech companies, and there's also constantly just like silly things like internal training videos that someone needs to make, these C-suiters for Microsoft look really good for the, for visibility. And it's a wide range, and there's different aspects we can effectively, whatever it is, whatever scale that you're looking for, whether it's just talking heads or if you want to do like a full production, high concept 30-second spot, then we can effectively do it.
Fascinating. I feel like you all are kind of both touching on this tension between commercial products bringing in the money and filmmakers who want to make something that feels more artful. And not to say that there can't be these high concept, more commercial projects. There definitely are more artfully done commercial projects, and then some that are, maybe just we needed to make something.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if you all think that this new initiative is going to, I guess, raise Seattle's profile for bigger, more art-focused projects as well. Like, is this going to affect Seattle's reputation among film people as a place to create things?
I think that, and then I want Champ's perspective, because I feel like you're in the midst of it more. I feel like a job is a job, and I'm never going to judge anybody or say like, you're doing this commercial, whatever. Like, you got to work. Whether there's like sort of a trickle down impact to where more narrative productions will come into the picture, that's hard to fully know. I know that sometimes people can say, okay, well, I've got this stability from this work. Maybe I can do something independently with the people that I've gotten to meet here and the talented crew that I've gotten to know, because Washington is not lacking for talented crew. And if this is providing stability for folks to continue working, hopefully then they can continue to make other interesting stuff. And this is where I'll embarrass Champ and say you should see his short films, because his short films, including one he made, was it 6 years ago, about your grandmother, Champ?
Yes, that's right.
It's a lovely short. And so if there are like ways to keep people making those like personal works of art and still be able to pay the bills, I think that's the goal here.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think I am I'm going to age myself a little bit. I think coming up in school, what was like a big source of inspiration was like an era of filmmakers that came up in the like late 90s, early 2000s that really cut their teeth in commercials and music videos. Easily one of my top 3 filmmakers is Jonathan Glazer, who has spent most of his career really digging his heels in commercial work for big brands, and the crew people that he met, the producers that he decided to keep working with, were people that he has had as longtime collaborators on his feature film work, which is kind of the sweet spot, I think, for me personally, where I'd want to work, is like a lot of work for them and some really meaningful, really impactful work for me. Commercial work, because it's so flash in the pan, just gives us a lot of room to refine work. If you can keep that train going and make things look really good and make Seattle a really effective place for doing that, then a lot more work can follow, assuming we still all have the energy to do creative work after all of that.
Yeah, no, it seems like you're getting in the reps, like you also end up building the scene of people who are used to working with each other and know each other and can take those other projects into something bigger potentially when there is time or funding for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of come back to the point about music video, just like having room to experiment and to play and to be weird, being very competent. Seattle has so much talent and young talent that have some really unique ideas. I think it's just bridging the gap of effectiveness at fulfilling an ask and having enough of the budget and resource to get a good camera package, have a producer on staff to make sure everything gets done, and investing enough money into your editor and post so that everything is finished and looks really good and all that stuff. I feel very privileged and very lucky to have stuck it out in the commercial space for a while and continue to try and do that. I know it's really challenging, especially because of the cost of living in Seattle, and we can go way into more into the weeds of how to tackle things on that end. But yeah, that's the fight.
Well, in the meantime, more room to be creative and weird is really what it's all about. Champ Ensminger, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to know more about your work, where can they go to find that?
I am pretty active on social media in my capacity as a film commissioner. I'm outside, as the kids say. I go to a lot of the film events in town. You can catch me at the SIF Film Festival over the next coming weeks, but all of my short film work and commercial work is on my website at champensminger.com.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Port of Port Townsend's quitting social media. Are you thinking about Napa or Sonoma for your next wine trip? If so, you might be overthinking it. Dundee, Oregon is right in the heart of the Willamette Valley, and it delivers all of the charm, wine, and food that you're looking for with just a short drive south. It's 30 miles outside of Portland. And I love a walkable town, and Dundee is super cute. Every third Thursday, they've got art on display with live music, food trucks, and wine tasting specials. Go for the great wine, stay and enjoy the laid-back vibes. Travel Dundee is offering spring discounts for CityCast listeners. Visit traveldundee.com/CityCast to unlock exclusive lodging promo codes for your next stay. Again, that's traveldundee.com/CityCast.
Hey Seattle, if you've ever wanted to see our Pacific Northwest whales, this is your moment. FRS Clipper Whale Watching is the only whale and wildlife tour departing from right in downtown Seattle. And this year, for their 40th anniversary, they're launching a brand new catamaran, the Emerald Clipper. It was built right here in Washington State, and it's designed for comfort and incredible views with spacious outdoor decks, floor-to-ceiling windows, and onboard naturalists who help you actually understand what you're seeing aboard this floating classroom. Out on the Salish Sea, you might encounter humpbacks feeding, killer whales hunting, gray whales cruising, plus bald eagles and seals and sea lions. It's not just a tour, it's a full wildlife experience. And they have a whale sighting guarantee, so if you don't see whales, you'll get a complimentary tour to use in the future. Spots fill quickly as the season ramps up, so don't wait. In fact, Sam and I have already booked our trip, and we cannot wait. You can book early too. Just go to whalewatching.com. That's whalewatching.com.
Last week, the Port of Port Townsend announced that they are quitting social media. Here to discuss, we have Liam Billingham, creative producer. Hi, Liam.
I'll never quit social media.
Fortunately for all of us. So the Port of Port Townsend announced this by posting a photo of a printed out piece of paper with a statement, which honestly iconic. It says, based on the preponderance of evidence in dozens of recent studies, the Port of Port Townsend has concluded that social media is linked to decreased human health outcomes, isolation, and disconnection. It is also clear that social media has made it more difficult for people in community to maintain healthy relationships with each other and the entities which serve them. I mean, are
this
they
is
wrong?
big, deep COVID, like I'm quitting
Yeah.
social media and then 6 hours later the person is still posting, but from like a institutional perspective. I love it.
I have always said, yeah, if you're gonna quit, just quit. But I mean, if you're a government
Irish
agency,
goodbye. You just
Yeah.
gotta go.
just if you're not posting, just don't post. But I do think it's different if you are, say, the Port of Port Townsend. Maybe you do want your people to know that you are not going to be posting here anymore.
Absolutely. It's true.
And also where they can find you, because there might be situations where like there is important public information, and that is where I think, and not to like get into like an immediate big picture conversation, if you're a sort of public institution and you have something you need to communicate and you post it on social media, but then the comments are just full of misinformation, you can't control that. And currently social media is not really held to the standard of having to have truth. And so I can understand why you would want to maybe step back from all of this. It's a catch-22 where it's like, but then are you not providing good information in the cesspool that is social media? Is it just that you're surrendering them? That's an endless debate that I've heard on multiple other platforms and multiple other social medias, and we'll probably all have until we post our last post.
I thought it was interesting reading the comments on the announcement from the Port of Port Townsend. There were people upset about this because they said, how will we hold you accountable? And I am curious for your thoughts on that, because I do think we've entered this, well, no, we've been in this era of comment culture, which Chase, as you mentioned, and also as the post from the Board of Port Townsend mentions, sometimes it gets nasty and there's no way to fact check it. I do think that in some cases, if you're a government agency, maybe you want to just be able to broadcast one way and you don't need to hear every person's thoughts in response to that. But is being off social media a way to dodge accountability? Like, are those two things connected in your mind?
I want to be nice to these commenters because I do think like public speech is like a valuable thing, but commenting on social media itself is not really, based on what I've seen, something that moves the needle. Like, keep posting, go with God, but I don't
Post
think
through it, baby.
Yeah,
Post
just-
through it.
where it's like, what's the thing where it's like, is posting activism, where it's like the butterfly, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
like it can be a way to build community, to voice perspectives, but I also think in most cases going outside, because there will still be port meetings, I would imagine, there will still be ways and mechanisms of holding institutions accountable. That will still always be important.
You can visit their website at portofpt.com.
Yes.
You can, it says, take a look at our viable local newspapers and our radio station, KPTZ. And for more complicated questions, concerns, and discussion about the port, call us or come see us in person.
You know, I think there's something to be said for this because it is getting back to the local of what they serve, right? Like, not everything has to, you know, one of the like upsides of the social media is I immediately weirdly thought about Egypt in 2009 when suddenly it was like we could get what was going on the ground from journalists, activists, people there. And so I think that moment opened up this floodgates of like, look at the power of this medium, but I don't think we understood the algorithm in the way that we do now. And so maybe this kind of, you know, not to get too philosophical, but this kind of pushback is like reconnect locally as opposed to like following them on Instagram and potentially not seeing their posts. And when a fire breaks out or there's a tsunami warning or whatever, everyone tunes in local, and maybe we need to get back to that mentality as opposed to just checking Twitter for updates.
Yeah, speaking of checking Twitter for updates, I think that there's a very valid conversation I've seen a few times come up around whether it's actually a gatekeeping mechanism to be posting these important updates through these social media sites. So I remember a few months ago, a Washington State missing persons alert was sent to everyone, but it included a link to a post on X for more details. And so people were like, wait, I'm trying to find out about this missing person, but because I don't have an X account, I can't access this information.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about same thing for Facebook. I think you can see some things if you're not logged in, but for the most part, you kind of have to be logged in to see. So it's assuming that people just have these accounts already. I mean, are social media sites basically just public utilities now?
Well, then make the internet free, baby.
Ooh, now we're getting into some big ideas. So agencies sharing this stuff via these sites, I think a lot of them almost exclusively, or it seems like, that's become one of the main ways that they can share things. I'm thinking about, posts from WashDOT or Washington DNR, Department of Natural Resources. I love their memes.
Mhm.
I also have conflicted feelings about what it means these days that a government agency knows that they have to make a meme to capture the attention of people who are scrolling through so many other things in their app. And when we're seeing like the president of our country make giant policy announcements on Truth Social, I guess this is just what a lot of government is doing now.
Yeah, I think it, but I think that then maybe it behooves these local municipalities or whatever to be like, no, we need to engage in a more, direct way with our constituencies. But I think the problem is we're in this moment where it's like we're not clear what that's actually going to be.
Every day we drift further and further from God's plan for us.
Whoa. Okay, we're only 9 minutes into the episode.
It's more just like I hear
In
all
conclusion.
of the points. Yeah, I hear all the points of like we definitely should be like providing good information and meeting people where they're at. So I can see it both ways. And I don't think it should be that you're able to dodge accountability. Do I think social media was really the way to do that? Debatable. I hope that this has a positive outcome of bringing people together more in the port of Port Townsend. But I also know all of the rest of us will keep posting. So I don't know if they'll stem the tide of our social media. Because the thing is, if you can't show up at a meeting, the real way of accountability is journalists showing up for you, writing the stories, like independent coverage of it. That's what we need. Social
Only
media
there were
can't replace that.
local news companies.
I know.
I'll
Support
leave you
them.
with the last line from this announcement from the port executive director. Let's just be people and talk rather than post, especially about anything that seems difficult.
Gotta say, don't disagree with that.
All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the latest arts and culture news around our region. If you're in Washington and you haven't tried King Harvest hummus yet, you're missing out on a locally made favorite. Since 1977, King Harvest Hummus has been making their small batch fresh hummus in Portland, Oregon. It's not like an average hummus. It's a thicker texture combined with bold flavors, and it creates raving fans after tasting it. Not surprising, since it's made local and fresh on the shelf. Some of our favorite flavors are roasted red pepper, jalapeno, sun-dried tomato, and of course, the classic. You can eat this healthy dip with chips, veggies, or add it to a sandwich or wrap. Or maybe you just want to eat it with a spoon. Most people buy more than one because once it's open, this healthy dip disappears fast. You've got to try it to love it. Don't miss out on expanding your snack experience with this locally made fresh dip. King Harvest Hummus. Simple, better, one dip at a time. You can find King Harvest in the refrigerated section at your local grocery store. It's time for Cut to the Chase.
Cut to the chase.
Where Chase Hutchinson is going to break down the latest arts and culture news from around our region. So first up, I know that the SIFF Film Festival is starting today. And Chase, I believe you have a list of recs that you have published with our friends over at Chum News. Walk us through your recs here.
So not only do I have a list of recs of what you should see, but it's what you should do, what you should eat in conjunction with them. All of them are 100% serious. None of them are at all cheeky at all associated with the films. But it was just a fun way of creating a map to where if this is your first time at SIF, here's a good entry point. If this is your 50th time at SIF,
Sweet.
here's a way to kind of navigate some of the stuff. There's just a lot of fun stuff there, and you can have a physical copy in your hand and carry it around with you as you navigate the festival.
And there's a beautiful poster.
There is a beautiful poster. I think the poster is the thing. So you could maybe have that as like a folded up thing, but hopefully those will be popping up around town.
Here's one that I loved.
Okay.
The Life We Leave. Chase has mentioned before here. It's about the death industry here in Seattle, which is now offering human composting. Going to be a great documentary. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And Chase's recommendation of where to go after is to get a bite or a drink at the Pine Box, which is a spot I love, which used to be a funeral home.
I mean, that one just
Right?
wrote itself. That was the
It really did.
easiest one. And that I do like that place also. And I
Yes.
think it will be a great place to talk about the film because it is one that gets into something deeper about death, our relationship to it, the rituals we have. And where better of a place to do it than somewhere that used to be a funeral home that we've made into a bar. That's
I
kind
like
of
that
itself
we've-
its own interesting thing. Yeah.
We've given it new life as a place
We have.
to, like, I mean, I do feel like, not to get too philosophical here, but like, what death is a reminder that we are alive. Like, we're all going to die someday. Like, we might as well do the most we can with the time that we have. And being in a place where you are hanging out with your friends, having a drink, having a bite to eat feels like a great celebration of life. And so I really love that it's gone from being a funeral home to having this new life.
I was going to say, without tipping off too much of what the movie is about, the movie is in part initially a profile of a business where it's like, how can we make money doing this? But then I think becomes that exact thing you're saying, Jane, of, oh, by seeing death and our proximity to it in a very intimate way, greater connections in life are formed because of that. And so having a gathering with friends to reminisce and discuss about that, I think is a beautiful thing.
While we're talking about death, how was the Taco Bell funeral, Chase?
Yes. So we had to talk about this because we met yesterday and we held off on having any sort of
Yes.
conversation.
Chase
It
and I were
was-
like, we can't talk about it.
I
but
know, we gotta
I-
save it
Bring
for
up
the
the
pod.
Taco Bell funeral.
So for people who don't know, I think we've mentioned it on the show before, the meme artist Sunday Nobody, of whom I am a huge fan, held a Taco Bell funeral for what used to be a Taco Bell in West Seattle, and Chase was there.
I was indeed, and it was a very somber affair.
I saw a lot of people dressed in black.
Indeed. When I first was there, I briefly said hello to Mr. Nobody, and he wished me well, said thank you for coming on a very sad day. And then they held a sort of procession where
This is amazing.
they brought in a headstone that he made, I believe out of granite, brought it up to the front for people to bring offerings. He then adjudicated what was the best offering. I believe it went to a ceramic taco, which then was given an art piece that he was made, a bronze Taco Bell bag. There was a crying competition where you could not cry. He was very explicit. You could not cry before it started. It was go, and then whoever was able to genuinely cry first. And then he released a dove, and then we all went on our way.
Just one single dove.
Yes, I thought there would be more doves, but it was just a single dove. I think
You
it
know,
was
that's
a fitting.
probably for the best.
Yes,
Just one dove was sacrificed.
it was a very fun kind of silly thing that also had an elected official at that I learned after the fact, which was very funny.
I did see
Um,
Alexis Mercedes Rink appeared at the Taco Bell
Recent
funeral.
guest was a
Yes.
mourner at the Taco
I
Bell
know
funeral.
it really
Mhm.
brought everyone together for one small amount of time.
Well, to turn the death around to life, if people want to celebrate the Taco Bells that still exist, I will be riding my bike to 10 of them on June 13th in the Taco Bell Century. I did it last year. It was a ton of fun doing it again this year. Still trying to work out the route, but Too bad that we won't get to go to West Seattle because
You
that
can
one is
still
no
have it as
longer
an
there.
honorary remembrance.
What
Stop.
happened to the headstone? Is it just still there? Like what's
don't
going to happen to
know.
all that stuff?
It's going to end up in Greece. Like
I'm
that
sure
statue of Squidward.
I'm sure he's got something planned for it. I think he's probably going to make some sort of like after the fact
Gotcha.
kind of like.
I really
Culmination of
love
it.
that we have like a local postmodern artist who seems to want to play with our earnestness around like just being alive. Like I think
Yeah.
that is really, really fun and exciting. And I love this.
No, absolutely.
It's really cool.
So coming back around to the
Mhm.
SIF Film Festival, Chase, I know you are also working on a piece about the recent SIF union negotiations. What can you tell us from your sources about how that is going?
So the story, by the time folks are listening to this, will be up in The Stranger. So I would encourage everyone to go read that. But essentially what they are saying is that the negotiations that the SIF Cinema Workers Union is having with new management at SIF has not been productive. They're currently delayed until after the festival. They currently say that their wage proposals are not being responded to in a way that they think indicates compromise. They're concerned about what they say is new management not working with them in the way that the previous management did. They're currently calling on folks to express support for them, filmmakers, film lovers, attendees of the festival. They dusted off their GoFundMe that they had used when they were trying to support those who were impacted by the closure of the Egyptian. So they're ramping up for a year of potential more activity and trying to raise awareness about their contract fight. They're going to be pamphleting potentially and have already been doing so and have said everything else is currently on the table because they think this is a pretty big existential fight for the future of SIF and their place in it because they're feeling a lot of economic pressure right now. I think it's an important thing to note, like while we talk about all the positive things of SIF at the beginning of this segment, you also have to think about who are the people that make it happen and how is it that we can hopefully begin to build a better arts economy generally, because I know that was something that was discussed on the podcast. So where people don't have to potentially work multiple jobs or leave behind this thing that they deeply care about because they can't make ends meet.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely be keeping an eye on that as it develops. And I mean, I'm sure that there will be many of those employees working the film festival as well as we head into about 10 days of film around town. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we have a new zine store in town. It's called Paper Pushers Print Shop. It just opened a couple weeks ago, and it's in the old IBM building on 5th Ave. Have you had a chance to go yet, either of you?
No. I love that it's in the IBM building. It made me think of like old printers with where you had to take off the little holes on the side. Like there's something sort of like, speaking of the ghosts of older industry in the building. That's kind of fascinating.
I have not either, but I definitely want to go. And because I was looking at the photos in Paul Constant's great piece in the Seattle Times and the Great Photos by Ken Lambert. And it just looks like a cool space. It took me back to when I remember zines were so much more of a thing and people were making them and sharing them and building community around them. I wish them nothing but the best. It seems like a really cool space.
Yeah, I love that zines are making a comeback, and they are so beautiful now. It has inspired me to be like, I should make a cool zine. Actually, our creative producer, Sam J. Leeds, has a new zine out. Definitely go check that one out. If you
I
see
love
it out in
how
the world.
everything feels like our whole segment is about things becoming less digital and like it's
I
film
know.
festival. Port Townsend's not on social media anymore. Go to a
Zines.
zine fair.
Yeah.
Like it's nice, actually. Feels
It's the
like
unofficial
real world's
tagline of CityCast Seattle. I
Right.
mean, I love making this podcast. We make it online. We clearly have a social presence, but I do it all because I want to hang out with people in person and connect about things that we care about in our community. So, yeah, that's why I'm
Love it.
here. All right, that's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. Chase Hutchinson, thank you, as always, for bringing us Cut to the Chase.
Glad to do it.
And thank you, Liam Billingham, for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Rip Taco Bell, West Seattle.
I'm your host, Jane Sihu, and listeners, we want to hear from you. Send us your news tips, your questions, your hot goss. your thoughts on, I guess, whether we should all quit social media by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also always call or text us at 206-880-3931. Until next time, see ya, Seattle. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Also, leave us a little review. It's really helpful. And tell your friends about us. You can also get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. And you can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at CityCast Seattle, and you can watch full episodes of this show on YouTube.